रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् वन्दे वृन्दावनचरं वल्लवी जनवल्लभं जयन्ती सम्भवन् धाम वैजयन्ती विभूषणं वाचं निजाङ्करसिकां प्रसमीक्षमाणः वक्त्रारविन्दविनिवेशितपाञ्चजन्यः वर्णत्रिकोणरुचिरे वरपुण्डरीके बद्धासनो जयति वल्लभचक्रवर्ती. Namaskars to all the astikas who have gathered to listen to the series organized by the very revered and respected Sri Ahobila Math, Mysore premises, as a goodwill gesture to all the interested astikas, irrespective of age, caste, creed, and nationality, about Krishna Bhakti. From today, for a set of 5 days, I will have the pleasure to expound the quintessence of Yadavabhyudayam, which is a beautiful poem, a kavyam in Sanskrit, on Krishna's life history. Of the various incarnations that we have known and relished in our scriptures, some which include Matsyavataram, Kurmavataram, Varaha Avataram, Hamsa Avataram. These are all avatars that the Lord took for a short period of time. If it was Varaha Avataram, it was to uplift Mother Earth from the Pralayarnavam. Udhritasi Varahena Krishnena Shatabahuna, says Vedam. So to save his beloved wife Bhumi Devi, the Lord incarnated as Varaha. This has been very neatly illustrated in Sri Vishnu Puranam and Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam. Likewise, to annihilate an asura called Hayagriva, at times referred to as Somakasura and some referred to as Somasura, and to bring back the lost Vedam, the Lord incarnated as Matsya. Alongside, we also know about the history of a king in the Dramida Desha who had the glimpse of Matsyavatara. Similarly, in the case of Hamsavatara, we have the Lord expounding the quintessential knowledge of Vedas to Sanat Kumaras. In Kurmavataram, alongside with other minor avatars like Ajita Avatara, Mohini Avatara, the Lord ensured that the Devas got their lost wealth. So these are all avatars that we have known from our Puranas, but they lasted for a short period of time. There is another avatara which also lasted for a short period of time, but which was hailed very, very high because of its uniqueness. It was a unique combination of a human body and an animal, which was lion, which was Narasimha or Nisimha Avataram. That also lasted for a short period of time. We have another avatara where the Lord incarnated and remained as a brahmachari, which is Vamana Avataram. Later he grew, measuring the worlds pervading the worlds as Trivikrama. Parashurama Avataram lasted for a very long period of time because he was born of Jamadagni and Renuka Devi, but his Avataram is largely considered as Apurna Avataram or Aveshya Avataram. Similarly is the case with Balarama Avataram, which is also considered an Aveshya Avataram. While we have discussed a plethora of avatarams from Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Trivikrama, Parashurama, Balarama, Hamsa, there are other avatars, minor avatars. When I say minor, not because of importance, from the Aveshya Avatara perspective, we have Kapila Avataram, Vyasa Avataram, Dattatreya Avataram, Naranarayanadi Avataram. So these are all avatars that came for a certain purpose. Two avatars which have been hailed by our Itihasas majorly, one Ramayanam, which is that of Rama, and Mahabharatam alongside a Puranam called as Bhagavata Mahapuranam and Vishnu Puranam is Krishna Avataram. Amongst the two, though Ramayanam may have slightly an edge over Mahabharatam as per our Acharyas because of its content, Mahabharatam is in fact hailed as Bharata Panchamo Vedaha. So Mahabharatam is also as important, but it does talk about Krishna and many other people. So if we have to know Krishna Avataram, we need to understand the quintessence of the fifth Amsham of Vishnu Puranam, the Dashama Skandam, the Ekadasha Skandam and Dvadasha Skandam of Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam, and Mahabharata in its entirety. So the quintessence of all these three will give us Krishna Avataram, which has been hailed by poets, philosophers, theologists and bhaktas across the Indian subcontinent. While Rama Avataram, along with his predecessors and successors, has been beautifully elucidated by Mahakavi Kalidasa and Raghuvamsham, we need to understand for Krishna Avataram, if there is one poet come philosopher who has given us the beauty of Krishna Avataram, it is none but Swami Vedanta Deshika, who lived between 1268 and 1369 CE, Common Era, in the south of India. He was born in Kanchipuram, in a small hamlet which was cultivating a certain grass which is deemed very holy for all our rituals, which is called Darbha. In Tamil, the South Indian language, a very old language, the holy grass is referred to by the words Tuya Pul. So, the word for grass is Pul. The word for holy is Tuya. Since it was a place that housed or cultivated holy grass, Tuya Pul, that place was called Tupul. Vedanta Deshika was born in the year 1268 AD in common terms, or we can take it as CE. And he lived for a span of 101 years. In his lifetime, he was a polymath for the very reason that he was a mathematician, a very, very respected philosopher, a great theologist, a wonderful poet, a sagacious dietitian, a polyglot. He was all in one. Amongst his many works that span many languages, one work which has been hailed amongst the poets in the Sanskrit world is called Yadavabhyudayam. Yadava in itself means the one who comes from the clan of Yadu. So Krishna is often hailed as the very famous Yadava. Abhyudayam is the biography or growing along with him. So this is a detailed history of Krishna, a biography of Krishna. So it's called Yadavabhyudayam. Vedanta Deshika, besides being a poet, I told he was a philosopher. He was a philosopher, an ardent and a very famous follower of the world-renowned Ramanujacharya, who lived 250 years before him. So Ramanuja's lifespan was between 1017 and 1137 CE. And Vedanta Deshika followed him. So he was a world-renowned philosopher too. He belonged to the school of Visishtadvaita philosophy. The beauty about Yadavabhyudayam is just not the poet, the topic which he has chosen as Krishna and the work Yadavabhyudayam, but also that this work has received a commentary upon another great luminary that Bharatadesham has seen. He lived in the 16th and the 17th century, again in the south of India. His name was Swami Appaiya Dikshita. His original name was Vinayaka Subramanyam, but he was hailed as Appaiya Dikshita, and he was also a very great poet, philosopher, and especially expounded upon the Alankara Shastram in Sanskrit language. Appaiya Dikshita was a follower of the Advaita school of philosophy. Though he has written works on other schools of philosophy, he is largely accepted as a scholar of the Advaita philosophy. Visishta Advaita philosophy was Vedanta Deshika. Appaiya Dikshita was of the Advaita school of philosophy. But Appaiya Dikshita has commented upon this work called Yadavabhyudayam from a poet of the Visishtadvaita school of philosophy, adhering to the norms of Visishtadvaita tenets and aphorisms. This speaks about the greatness what our philosophers enjoyed in India. And though they may have differed in their thought processes, their mutual respect and adoration knew no bounds. So this is a befitting example of how an Advaita scholar and Visishta Advaita scholar have been friends from time immemorial. How did this work of Vedanta Deshika first of all reach the hands of Appaiya Dikshita? There is an interesting anecdote. Aitihyam is the word that we use. You must have all heard of the very famous hospital called CMC. Many of you must have been born there. It is one of the oldest hospitals, Christian Medical College Hospital in Vellore. Vellore is in the northeastern part of Tamil Nadu. In Vellore, there is a beautiful fort standing even today. It is surrounded by water. And there is a beautiful temple for Lord Shiva in the fort. He is called Jalakanteshwara. This fort is said to have been constructed by two brothers of the Nayakas, said to have been Chinnabomma Reddy and Timma Reddy. They were vassals under the Vijayanagara kings. It is said that Sadashivaraya was ruling the Vijayanagara dynasty then. While this fort was constructed, for the housewarming ceremony, the kings invited Vedic scholars from the nearby cities and villages. Kanchipuram, Nagareshu Kanchi, Purusheshu Vishnu, Narishu Rambha. This is an old saying. Amongst the cities, it was one of the smartest cities known. So from Kanchipuram, a group of scholars visited the housewarming ceremony performed by these Nayaka kings. At the culmination of the housewarming ceremony, the Vedic scholars praised the king and his regime along with the newly constructed fort. One such Vaishnava scholar said, Prabhutaratna Dyutikesaram tat pravala patraugha parita parshvam sthane harerishta tamam tadasit sambhuti rajivam iva indirayaha. When I look at this beautiful fort that is surrounded by waters, it reminds me of the beautiful city of Dwaraka, which has the gem-studded skyscrapers, the mansions, the houses as the stamens of a lotus flower. The coral reefs that have encircled this particular city with waters around look from the top like the beautiful pink-colored, pink-hued petals of the lotus. And this is the lotus where Mahalakshmi sits, was the shloka. Upon hearing this particular verse, the kings were so impressed and they said, we would like to know from which work have you quoted this verse. This Vaishnava said, in our city of Kanchipuram, 400-500 years before was born a great poet cum preceptor. His name was Vedanta Deshika, and he has composed a work on Krishna's life history called Yadavabhyudayam. And we have quoted one verse out of the set of 2600 plus odd verses from his work. And the kings were so impressed that they commanded their Rashtra Kavi, who was Appaya Dikshita, to comment upon this work. Appaya Dikshita initially hesitated because he knew that this work was of Vedanta Deshika, who was a Visishtadvaiti. So he did not know whether he will do justice to the work of a person from the rival school of philosophy. But anyways, as a king's command, he took this work, and as he started commenting upon from the first verse, he realized that this work was a monumental work of devotion, and in fact sang a laudatory verse on Vedanta Deshika. This is how the work and its commentary came into picture. Let me get into this work, beautiful Kavyam of Lord Sri Krishna. It has 2600 verses. We have 5 days. There are 24 sargas, 24 chapters. I am sure I will not be able to cover even 1%, which is 260 shlokas, which is close to 26 shlokas. So I may be able to cover roughly maybe 5% of it. So I will begin with the invocatory verse. Vande Vrindavanacharam Vallavi Jana Vallabham Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. So I will read the commentary of Appaya Dikshita as well. That will be in pure Sanskrit. I will not read up the entire commentary because that will consume a lot of our time. But I am reading so that we commemorate the language and the efforts taken by the commentator and the poet. Tatra tavat Ashir Namaskriya Vastur Nirdesho Vapi Tanmukham Iti Shastram Anusritya Visishta Ishtadevata Namaskara Lakshanam Mangalamacharya Prathama Shloke Nibadhanati Vanda Iti Vrindavanam Nama Madhuropakanthe Vanaviseshaha Tatra Charati Iti Vrindavanacharam Chareshtaha Iti Tapratyayah Tatpurushe Kriti Bahulam Iti Lugdha Vidhanasya Bahulakatvatu Supo Luk Vallavyaha Gopajati Striyaha. What he says is, this is a work that begins with the invocatory verse. So the poet, it seems, has invoked his very favorite deity, who is Lord Sri Krishna. Ishtadevata Namaskaram. So how does this work begin? It begins with the verse that I cited, and the verse has 4 parts. Vande Vrindavanacharam Vallavi Jana Vallabham Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. In fact, it must state where Krishna is. I should say, for example, we have all recited this invocatory verse to Saraswati. So how do we know it is towards Saraswati? Because it begins with the word Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. So for all these adjectives which have been added, the substratum is Saraswati. Saraswati Namastubhyam. I offer, or we offer, our prayers to Saraswati. Varade, she is the one who gives boons. Kamarupini, the one who teaches, gives us knowledge with love. Vidyarambham Karishyami. Now I begin my studying process, graduation process. So this is how we design a verse. But here, when it is on Krishna, where does it state that it is explicitly on Krishna? Vande Vrindavanacharam Vallavi Jana Vallabham Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. It gives us 4 descriptions, but it doesn't say who is the person. But the beauty is, when we read each of these descriptions separately or in combination or together as 4, it will denote only Krishna. Vande Vrindavanacharam. Vande, I offer my vandanams, my namaskarams to Vrindavanacharam. Vrindavana. We would have heard of this word, Vrindavana. For the North Indians, the very famous Vrindavan is there in Uttar Pradesh. For the South Indians, on a lighter vein, we know the Vrindavan gardens near Mysuru. So what is Vrindavanam? We know it is a place. What does Vrindavanam mean? So now we will have a confusion. Sir, you're repeating the word Vrindavanam. Isn't it Brindavanam? So we have been using the word interchangeably, either Vrindavanam or Brindavanam. But remember, The original word is a Vrindavanam. Why? Let us assume, let us now understand why it is Vrindavanam and how it became Vrindavanam. Krishna Bhakti has been advocated by all schools of philosophy. Let us take Adi Shankara for example. In his Mukundashtakam, he states, Kararavindena padaravindam mukharavinde viniveshayantam vatasya patrasya puteshayanam balam mukundam manasa smarami balam mukundam manasa smarami. So if you look at this beautiful composition, it says, I offer my namaskarams to Balam Mukundam, who's Lord Krishna. The followers of Advaita school of philosophy, let us take Madhusudana Saraswati, who comes from Bangadesham. When he writes Advaita Siddhi or a commentary on Rasa Panchadhyayi, though he might have been a pure Advaitin and might have spoken about Nirguna Brahman in the Paramarthika Dasha, yet when he concludes, he says, Krishnat param tattvam aham na jane. I desire and I know of no other bigger tattvam than Krishna. So Krishna Bhakti was in Advaita school of philosophy. Let us take another example, Sadashiva Brahmendra, who was a great Advaitic propounder. Madashikhi pincha alankrita chikure mahaniya kapola vijita kure manasa sancharare. So he talks about the one who is adorned with peacock feathers. So be it Sadashiva Brahmendra, Madhusudana Saraswati, who were staunch Advaitins from the school of philosophy of Advaita by Adi Shankara, have hailed Krishna. Let us come to the Visishtadvaita school of philosophy, which is Ramanuja. The idol, the deity that he worshipped of Nartana Krishna, Navanita Krishna, is still being worshipped by the Acharyas of Sri Ahobila Math. Let us take Vedanta Deshika, be it Yadavabhyudayam, be it Achyuya Shayayam, or be it Gopala Vimshati. He has hailed Krishna. You can take the Alvars of the Tamil cult, be it Nammalvar, Thirumangai Alvar, Periyalvar, Andal, Kulashekar Alvar. They had immense bhakti towards Krishna. Coming to the school of Dvaita by Madhvacharya, Vyasatirtha, Jayatirtha and so on, they all loved Krishna. It is in fact Udupi Sri Krishna who's hailed. So all of them refer to the place as Vrindavanam, because in Sanskritam, Vrinda means a type of a thorn. In Tamil, it is called Nerinji Mul. It will have colloquial names in other regional languages. It is a kind of thorn. So a place which was infested with thorns of this variety was called Vrindavanam. Now you may wonder, so if it is full of thorns, how could people walk on it? It was an uninhabited land for a very long time. When the Brajavasis wanted to shift for Krishna's safety from Gokulam to Vrindavanam, they had to make it cultivable and livable. So as Krishna's Gopikas and Gopajanas started walking on this land infested with thorns, and Krishna's lotus, divine, amazing feet made the thorns into grass, soft grass. Leela Shuka tells, Mandam mandam madhura ninadair venuma purayantam vrindam vrindavanu bhuvigavam charayantam charantam chando bhage shadamakha makhadvam sinadanavanam hantaram tam kathaya rasane gopakanya bhujangam. Uthukadu Venkata Subbayar, a great Tamil composer in the Carnatic tradition of the 17th, 18th century, hails Vrindavanam and tells that I should be born as a blade of grass if at all I get another birth. So Vrindavanam was a place infested with thorns. Later it became grass because of usage. So all our acharyas have hailed it as Vrindavanam. But how did it become Vrindavanam? Because another school of philosophy, though may not be as prominent as Advaita, Visishtadvaita and Dvaita, it was called Achintya Bheda Bheda, propounded largely by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and later his group of followers. It's called the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So they all were located or headquartered around the current Bangladesh, West Bengal and Bihar. Bengali, which is the prominent language of these areas, does not have vakaram. It does not have the letter va. It has only ba. That is why in Sanskritam, if it is avidya, it will be called vidya. If it is Chakravarti, it will be called Chakraborti. So Vrindavanam later became Brindavanam. Now what is the fault in changing from Vrindavanam to Brindavanam? No fault, but meaning may get misconstrued, because Brinda in Sanskritam could also denote Tulasi. So if we call it Brindavanam, then the meaning from the land of thorns will become land of Tulasi. No harm here. But we may face one small hurdle, because Krishna walked on Brindavanam. So if it is thorns, by walking it will become grass. But if it is Brindavanam, walking on Tulasi, Krishna or none of the Gopastris will do, because Tulasi is very holy and she is regarded as the consort of the Lord. So treating Vrindavanam as Brindavanam overall may seem right, but we have to be very careful in its usage. Now I have dealt with one part of the verse. Vande Vrindavanacharam, the one who trod on the land of Vrindavanam. The name is not mentioned. It is mentioned as the one who trod on the land of Vrindavanam. Vallavi Jana Vallabham. To all the Vallavi Janas, the Gopikas and the Gopa Janas, he was the beloved. Vallavi Jana Vallabham. Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama. To the one who is born on Jayanti. Now, largely in our Indian context, what is Jayanti? Jayanti means birthday. So we have Mahatma Gandhi's birthday called Gandhi Jayanti. We have the Jayanti of Ambedkar ji. So it is called Ambedkar Jayanti. So we have started thinking that Jayanti means birthday. But in Sanskrit, Jayanti is not birthday. I will read out what Jayanti means for our understanding. Jayanti, Rohini Sahita, Shravana Masasya, Krishnashtami. So, Shravana Masam. So, there are two almanacs, Panchankams that we follow. So, for people who follow the lunar calendar, roughly between July 20th, 21st, in that period, till about August 19th, 20th, 21st, that month is called Shravana Masam. So we have major festivals coming in that month. So Paurnami, we have the Tithi, and before that, the penultimate or the previous Friday is called Varalakshmi Vratam. Shravana Paurnami Purvastha Shukravare Charumati Prabhrati Bhir Pujita Kare. So that is Shravana Masam. Now the same Shravana Masam in the solar almanac will come slightly later. So if we look at the Shravana Masam, it will come roughly slightly delayed than the lunar almanac. So there will be a difference in how Janmashtami is celebrated, whether it's Janmashtami or Sri Jayanti. So in the Shravana Masasya, Krishnashtami. Krishnashtami means Krishna Paksha Ashtami. Krishna Paksha means what? We have got two Pakshas in a month. So when we have the moon waxing, which is growing, and moon waning. So when does it wax? From Amavasya to Paurnami. So it grows. That is Shukla Paksham. When it wanes from Paurnami to Amavasya, it is Krishna Paksham. So in the Krishna Paksham, we have an Ashtami in the Shravana month. And if Rohini Nakshatram comes in combination with that, then that Muhurtam on that day is called Jayanti. So it must be a Rohini Nakshatram, not any other Nakshatram. It must be Shravana Masam, not any other Masam. It must be Krishna Paksham and not Shukla Paksham. It must be Ashtami Tithi and not any other Tithi. When all these four come in combination, that period is called Jayanti. So Jayanti is not essentially birthday. So if let's assume one of you is born during that Rohini plus Ashtami plus Krishna Paksham plus Shravana Masam. If all this combines to you, then you can do a same pinch to Krishna and say both of us are born in Jayantis. But technically nobody else can say that, because Jayanti should have this combination. So Jayanti Rohini Sahita Shravana Masasya Krishnashtami Jayam Punyancha Tanute Jayantin Tenatam Viduhu Iti Pauranikai Nirukta is what Ape Dikshita comments. So Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama, the one who was born on Jayanti, again his name is not mentioned. Vaijayanti Vibhushanam, the one who sports the garland called Vaijayanti to prove his supremacy. So if you look at the four descriptions, the one who trod in Vrindavanam, Vande Vrindavanacharam, the one who is a beloved of Vallavi Janas, Vallavi Janavallabham, the one who is born on the special occasion called Jayanti, Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama, the one who sports the garland of supremacy called Vaijayanti, Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. We don't know who is mentioned. But when we combine all the four descriptions, it will denote only Krishna, because Krishna was the one who was born on Jayanti. Krishna was the one who was hailed and was the beloved of the Gopikastris. Krishna is the one who sports the Vaijayanti garland. Krishna is the one who trod on Vrindavanam. So for all these four parts in the lines, there are four auspicious attributes mentioned. Vande Vrindavanacharam Vatsalyam. So the one who walked on the thorns to make it grass. So if he has walked to make that sharp thorns into grass, it means that out of his motherly affection, he did not want the others to suffer. So the gunam highlighted is Vatsalyam. Vallavi Jana Vallabham, the one who is a beloved of Vallavi Jana. So what is the gunam? Saushilyam. When he moved with the Gopikastris, he did not give them that feeling that there is a disparity between him and them in status and knowledge. He moved with them as if he was a part of them. Saushilyam. Then Jayanti Sambhavan Dhama, the one who is born in the holy tithi of Jayanti, Saulabhyam. Vaijayanti Vibhushanam, to show that he is supreme, Swamitvam iti, that is the gunam. So this invocatory verse has been hailed very much by all our acharyas. Next, he goes on to describe. He says, Shaktya Shauri Katha Swadaha Mandadhiyamapi Sthane Mandadhiyamapi Amritam Yadi Labhyeta Kimna Grihyeta Manavaihi. Even the dull-witted primitive mortals, for example me, even I can enjoy this work because it talks about the nectar, the amritam of Krishna Charitram. He goes on to say, Vasudha Shrotraje tasmin Vyase cha hridaya sthite Anyepi kavaya kamam babhuvur anapatrapaha. He says that there are two sages. One is Valmiki and the second one is Vyasa. He says that both of them are the best poets in this world. In his opinion, both of them are the best poets. He says, goes on further and says, besides these two, one is Valmiki. What does he say for Valmiki? Vasudha Shrotraje Tasmin. The one who has emerged out of the ear of Bhumi Devi. So the anthill is called Valmikam, the one who has emerged from it. Shrotram Yetat Prithivya Valmika iti Shrutihi. So Shruti says that he has emerged from Valmikam, so he's called Valmiki. To the one who has emerged from Bhumi Devi's ears, which is Valmikam, called Valmiki, who has given us Ramayanam, point 1. Vyasecha Hridaya Sthite, the one who has given us the beautiful work called as Mahabharatam, compiled the Puranas, given us the Vedanta Sutras, who's called Badarayana, Krishna Dvaipayana or Vedavyasa. Besides these two, Anyepi Kavayaha Kamam, the other people who call themselves as poets, Babhuvur Anapatrapaha, they are doing a futile exercise. In his opinion, these two are the greatest poets. Then he goes on, Tada Tvenutanam Sarvam Ayatancha Puratanam Nadoshayita Yadubhayam Nagunaya Chakalpate. He says, whatever is deemed old, right? When we talk to elderly people, they'll say, oh, this is traditional, this is what we believe is right, what you're doing now is wrong. It could be wrong in many occasions, but Vedanta Deshika says, just because something is old or traditional, it doesn't mean it has to be accepted the way it is. It doesn't mean it will be right in the current times. So question and then accept. On the other hand, he says, just because something seems modern or new, do not outright reject it. If it is good, accept it. So accepting or not accepting a ritual or a practice or a thought is not dependent on how many years old or new it is. It is on the meritocracy that that particular entity is entitled or augurs is what, whether it has to be accepted or not. So he says, now I am writing a work. He says, I am giving a work on Vedanta, on Krishna Charitram. Just because it is for you a very new work, do not reject it. It may have certain things that you may not know of, you may have wrongly understood of, you may have never appreciated. So accept this work, he says. Then he goes on in another verse. Pravrittam anaghe marge pramadyantim api kvachit navacham anvanyate nartaki niva bhavukaha. So he says that I have tried to present it in the margam style. Nartaki niva bhavukaha marge pramadyantam api. So margam, in those of you who have learnt Bharatanatyam, one of the earliest and revered full-time or complete Indian classical dance form, you will appreciate that there is a margam style. There is a certain way of presenting Bharatanatyam. So that is called margam. So when we deal with margam, we need to understand that even in writing a poem, there is a certain format. So he says that I am going to adhere to this format and write. If not, how will the audience appreciate? Just like when a dancer does not adhere to the margam style, he states. Then there is a beautiful verse he comes up with. Krida tulikaya swasmin kriparushitaya swayam eko vishwamidam chitram vibhuhu shriman ajijanat. So he says Krida tulikaya swasmin. So he paints a beautiful picture. Now we have not entered Krishna Charitram. He gives an introduction. He says, to Lord Narayana, who has been hailed unanimously in the Vedas, and to his consort, who is Sri Mahalakshmi, Krishchate Lakshmi Chapatnyo Ahoratre Parshve. So the couple, the divine couple, the Dampati, have created this universe. But now he poses this in a two-dimensional form. He says the entire world has been created like a painting, a canvas painting. Both of them together have painted. Not that one is painting from one end, the other is painting from the other end. Both of them are doing it together. They have only one brush, one palette of colors. What is it? So he tells that the Lord has used Krida. Krida is his divine sport as the brush. So we hail in our Shastrams that the Lord has created this universe out of a sport for his happiness. Lokattu Leela Kaivalyam. Akhila Bhuvana Janmas Thema Bhangadi Leele, for his active sport. So his active sport, his desire of active sport is the brush. He has to dip it in the colors in a palette, right? What is it? It is the Lord and the Goddess's divine compassion, which is the paint. So dipping the brush, which is the brush of divine sport, in the paint of compassion, the Lord has painted this world. So he says, Krida tulikaya swasmin kripa rushitaya swayam eko vishwamidam chitram vibhuhu shriman ajijanat. So this world has been created that way. He says, then at this juncture, there is a laudatory verse in the commentary of Appaya Dikshita on Vedanta Deshika. So he says, Itham vichintya sarvatra bhava santi pade pade. Kavitarkika simhasya kavyeshu laliteshvapi tathapi vistarapattair naivam agre prapanchate kavya vyakhya kritam ritihi prachema prachimam anugamyate. So he says, this poet who has given us this work, Vedanta Deshika, Kavitarkika Simhasya, he is the lion amongst poets and Tarkikas. How is that seeable? He says, Pade Pade, every word, every phrase proves that this man is the lion amongst poets. So I am going to comment based on the thoughts in which the poet has written this work. He continues. Then Vedanta Deshika goes on to describe the lineage from Chandra, from moon, because it's a lunar dynasty. If it was Raghuvamsham, we have to deal with solar dynasty, Surya Vamsham. So he starts with Chandra, Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So the Chandra, the one who was created from the Lord's mind. Then his son Buddha. Then he continues with Pururavas. Vedanta Deshika mentions specifically about the contribution of Pururavas towards the renaissance of performing fire oblations. Then he continues with Nahusha and then follows till Yayati. While he deals with Yayati, he tells Nidesham tasya rajanno na shekur ativartitum prapta swapara nirvaham pramanamiva vadinaha. So, like how in a debate, people who debate follow rules. Likewise, Yayati also followed those rules in administration. So if there are certain rules in administration, Yayati followed. Like, since he's a poet, he has to give a comparison. Like how people who come for a discussion or a debate need to follow the rules in a debate. Then he continues and describes Sacha vritta vihinasya na vidyam bahvamanyata nahi shuddheti grihyeta chaturthi chandra chandrika. Though this king was of great caliber, he did not hold those people who were learned but did not have a good character with high respect. There are people with great caliber, very good knowledge, but not a good character. So the king did not give respect to them just because they had knowledge. He continues, Nahi shuddheti grihyeta chaturthi chandra chandrika. Like, what is the comparison? Scholars, very well read, great caliber, but character is not good, so the king did not bother to give respect to them. Like, though the fourth face of the moon, called Chaturthi, right? You've got Prathama, Tritiya, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi. Chaturthi is a Tithi. On the Chaturthi Tithi, you will see the moon. It will be very bright compared to Prathama, Tritiya and Dvitiya Tithis. Despite that, a learned scholar will never look at the moon, however bright it is, on the Chaturthi Tithi. Why? Because there is a belief in our Shastram that if you look at the moon on the Chaturthi Tithi, you will be accused of theft or robbery even if you have no role to play in it. So there is a shlokam. It goes like this: Kanyagata Chaturthyam tu Shukle Chandrasya Darshanam Mityabhidushanam Kuryat Tasmat Pashyan Tam Tada. So you will have an accusation thrown at you. It is said in Skanda Puranam that Krishna had an accusation thrown at him by Satrajit, Satyabhama's father, that Krishna must have stolen the Syamantakamani. So Krishna took all the efforts to get that dirt off him, which is the accusation, fought Jambavan and got the Syamantakamani back. So in the hindsight, when he understands why this could have happened, Narada tells in Skanda Puranam that Krishna must have viewed the moon on a Chaturthi Tithi. That is why this dosham must have come to him. To get himself eradicated of the dosham, he advises Krishna to perform Ganesha Vratam. This has been indicated by a medieval Carnatic composer called Muthuswami Dikshitar, who tells that the younger brother of Balarama, who is the son of Rohini. So Rohini's son's younger brother called Krishna performed puja to Vinayaka. Rohini yanujachitam siddhi vinayakam anisham. So this is the reference. So here he tells that Yayati was so good that he did not consider a person with a bad character despite his learning good. Next he continues. Apunah prarthaniyasya prarthitat adhikadayinaha arthinaha prathametasya charaman paryapurayan. So he tells that Yadu, the very famous king, he was so generous towards people who sought alms that if there were 4 people seeking alms, person 1, 2, 3, 4, he would give so much in abundance to the first person that for the rest of them, the second, the third, and the fourth who have come seeking alms, the first one will become the donor, because the first one has received so much in abundance, wealth in abundance, that he will become the donor now. Apunaha arthinaha prathametasya charaman paryapurayan, he tells. Then as he continues, he speaks about in the dynasty, there was a person called Anaka Dundubhi, because when this child was born, realizing that the futuristic glory that the child will enjoy, the celestials played 2 instruments, Anaka and Dundubhi. Since 2 instruments were played while he was born, he was referred to as Anaka Dundubhi. Anakancha divyanam dundubinancha nisvanaihi sahajatam yama chakyur akhyaya Anaka Dundubhim. So Anaka Dundubhi was his name, who is Vasudeva. Next, he continues. Sa Vishnuriva lokanam tapanastejasamiva samudra iva ratnanam satamekashrayo bhavat. This is called Malopama. This particular alankaram is called Malopama. So he tells, Sa Vishnuriva lokanam, like how Vishnu is hailed by all of the entire world, tapanas tejasamiva, like how Surya is hailed, samudra iva ratnanam, like how ocean is hailed as the repository of all gems, satam ekashrayo bhavet. Likewise, Vasudeva became the asylum to all those who wanted prosperity, wealth, and fearlessness. So this is a Malopama. This, because you are having 3 similes, all of them converging into a fulcrum called Vasudeva. Next, he mentions in this shloka, Trivedi madhyadiptaya tridhamne panchahetaye varadaya namastubhyam bahyantara virbhuje. Trivedi madhyadiptaya, the one who is hailed as the one present in all the 3 Vedas. You may be wondering why not all the 4, because Atharva Veda or Atharvana Veda is regarded as the extract of the first 3, Rig, Yajuhu, Sama. So if you mention 3 Vedas, Atharvana is also a part of it. Trivedi Madhyadiptaya, the one who has been hailed in all the 3 Vedas. Tridhamne Panchahetaye, the one who has mainly 3 abodes of residence. What are the 3 abodes? Where Apai Dikshita mentions Dugdambudhi Ravimandala Paramapada Rupani Sthanani Asya Iti Tridhama Shabdo Bhagavad Vachi. So there are 3 abodes. Dugdambudhi, which is Milky Ocean, Kshirabdi, Ravimandala, the Mandalam of Savita, which is Surya. Then Paramapada, the eternal abode called Paramapadam, Tat Vishnoho Paramapadam. So these are the 3 abodes of his permanent residence. The one who stays there. Panchahetaye, the one who is adorned with 5 weapons. Chakram, Shankham, Sharngam, which is his bow and quiver of arrows. Nandakam, which is his sword. And Kaumodaki, which is his gada. That is why when he concludes in Vishnu Sahasranamam, he is hailed as the one who sports all these weapons. Shankha Bhrannanda Kichakri Sharga Danva Gadadharaha Rathangapani Rakshobhya Sarva Praharana Yudaha. That is why Panchahetaye is used. Who is the one? He is the one who bestows boons on his devotees. Varadaya Namastubhyam. I offer my obeisances to that Varada. Bahya Antara Havir Bhuje. The one who ignites the fire within me and outside. Bahya Antara Havir Bhuje, he tells. So this is the beautiful verse that talks about the invocation offered in the front of this work, talks about from Chandra till Vasudeva. Further going ahead, we have to deal with Devaki and Vasudeva, how she got pregnant, what was her feeling during pregnancy, and how Krishna was born. Let us deal with the content from Yadavabhyudayam in the coming discourses. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.